Are you gay or lesbian and you live in Zimbabwe? Well, I've got some bad news for you. So, the Trump administration has told the gays and lesbians of Zimbabwe that they shall not be funding their LGBTQI activities. It's going to be a long 5 years for you. Now, I'm sure you must be wondering why, right? Well, it's because they've just felt like it's just a waste of money. Now, on January 8, 2025, Brian Mast, who is the chairperson of the U.S. House Foreign Affairs Committee, has sent a letter to the Secretary of State Antony Blinken and USAID Administrator Samantha Power. So in this letter, Mast criticized the outgoing Biden administration for approving what he described as wasteful spending on international programs that do not serve the U.S. national interest. Now, amongst these programs were efforts to promote LGBTQI+ awareness in Zimbabwe. Now, this is not in Uganda, Kampala, or in Kenya, Nairobi, but it's in Zimbabwe. And why is that? So just wait until the end of the video so that I can tell you why Zimbabwe is a particular case. And to be fair, this has been going on within the sub-Saharan Africa for a long time, when Western countries were funding programs that promote same-sex lifestyles. Between 2021 to 2022, approximately $87 million was donated to LGBTQI issues. Now, 1,933 grants were awarded, and this represented 60% increase in total amount of grants and 44% increase in the number of grants compared to previous reporting periods. Mind you, these are countries with struggling economies and without basic amenities like water and shelter. Keep that in mind. Now, in Zimbabwe, same-sex relationships are illegal.
We equally reject attempts to prescribe new rights that are contrary to our values, norms, traditions, and beliefs. We are not gays.
Gay, 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 gay.
Now, the Constitution also explicitly expresses and prohibits same-sex relationships, reflecting nationals' cultural and legal stance on LGBTQ issues. Now, despite these challenges, organizations like Gays and Lesbian Association of Zimbabwe Girls have been working to support the community and advocate for human rights. Kind of nice, right? But the government of the United States has previously also funded initiatives aimed at promoting human rights globally. Mind you, these are human rights according to them. Now, these examples can go into 2024. The U.S. Embassy in Zimbabwe announced an $8 million investment in the President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief (PEPFAR), focusing on support of key communities including LGBTQI+ individuals. This funding aimed at combating HIV and AIDS and reducing stigma and discrimination amongst people in African communities. Now, this all went well until Trump came into office and he outrightly said he wants to put America first. And what would 8 million do to the United States government? Like, obviously it would add a lot of drugs in the shelves of pharmacies. It would help a lot of drugs in the hospitals. It would help on securing good employment for the young people. Young SMEs would actually be grown out of 8 million, and I rightly understand why Trump is scrapping off these unnecessary spendings. Now, during the previous terms, Trump implemented policies that reduced the funding for programs related to reproductive health, and also he withdrew from international agreements like the Paris Climate Accord. So the current move to block funding is a continuation of his America First approach. Now, on to the biggest question: why is Zimbabwe not all other African countries? Now, to answer this question, we have to be very particular about why Zimbabwe is a special country to be mentioned amongst other countries. It's because Zimbabwe is not a regular country. To be fair with you, Zimbabwe has done almost all the things that are on the black book of the US government or the West. It is being against the US government and the West due to their stance on taking back the land from white settlers, and also voicing out on the actions of the US government. So why spend millions to a country without any diplomatic ties to the American government? So in this case, we have to understand that aid is one of the best ways to destroy a country. I mean, prolonged aid can lead to dependency. It also weakens the government and the relationship between the state and the citizens. In some instances, it may encourage corrupt or inefficient governments, hindering economic and investment growth. Now, despite significant inflows of aid, poverty levels in sub-Saharan Africa remain high, suggesting that aid hasn't been as effective as intended in stimulating growth or economic growth, I may say. Now, if you want to see this, look at the statistics of so many non-governmental organizations in some sub-Saharan African countries vis-a-vis the economic growth. You would see that they don't have a nexus, which means the more non-governmental organizations are put in African countries, the more the economy continues to collapse. Because if you're getting spoon-fed and you don't have, sustainable means of developing your country, things become a bit hazy and you become dependent on donor funds. So it's not really good for us to keep on milking from the US governments, the UK governments. It's time for Africa to stand on its own. And Zimbabwe has been given millions in promoting LGBTQI activities and not even funding a hospital or a school of any sort in sustainable development initiative. Well, you know the answer to that, right? Africa should wake up and stop expecting anybody else to come and save it. We need to scrap this mentality to stand on our own, expect nothing but only that which we can produce. I'm not saying that the LGBTQI community should promote itself in Africa or in Zimbabwe in particular, but I say this is coming from a position of being dependent on some certain nation besides your own. This is coming from the mentality we have in Africa that everything has to be outsourced from another government. Why not develop our own selves and start tabling these matters after dealing with what's important than focusing on things that are actually anti our constitution? Now, thank you for joining us in discussing this important issue. If you find these sentiments and segment informative, please like, share, subscribe, and for more updates, please don't forget to follow my content. Till next time.